Pearl Harbor, the day of infamy. On a cool September evening, retired United States Navy James Rogers steadily hikes up towards the summit of a mountain with his two grandsons. As his grandsons ran ahead and the view overlooking a lake came into sight, Rogers reflected for a moment on the countless times he had trudged up a similar mountain on a distant island with his Navy brothers and sisters. Rogers remembered how each shirt on each recruit's back had taken on a darker shade of brown from soaking up their pouring sweat in the Hawaiian heat. At least there was a constant pleasant island breeze to cool their sore and sweaty bodies. He did not know the torture he was committing to when he signed with the Navy. He remembered lying wide awake at night and muffling his grimaces so others would not hear him wrestling with the knots deep in his calves as they cramped. But more than anything, more than the running, more than the heat, more than the abuse his body took, more than the lack of sleep, he remembered this above all: his anger. He remembered that day, a day that will forever live in infamy in the hearts and minds of Americans, was a day that Rogers had lived out. Sunday was typically a day of rest for us, or at least was our custom. The Japanese did not care much about our customs, routines, plans, or dreams for that day. A loud buzz of Japanese Zeros filled the air, with more sounds to follow. Soon the loud air raid horns sounded, and we all dove out of our bunks and sprung into action, fearing what lay outside. I had been trained for this day, but I never expected my training to take over as a reaction, for I was afraid of any circumstance in which I would have to use it. As I burst out of the barracks, the tarmac shook from the impact of the explosions. I opened my eyes to an unbearable scene, and the sights and sounds surrounding me were something out of a nightmare. I felt pressure building in the back of my mind, in the purest form of rage. I was not sure what to do, but I took off in the direction of the explosions as my anger built. I began to dodge the fallen bodies that interrupted my trip across the airstrip. A line of aircraft began to explode in sequence as the Japanese Zeros had taken up a new target since most of the ships had already been wasted. I stumbled over the bodies that lay in agony as I raced towards the water. I wanted to fight back, and I knew I needed to get to the anti-aircraft artillery station near the dock. I had to remove the deceased operator of one of the 4 working guns left. I laid into the zooming over my head as I could barely hear the planes from the other unbearable sounds. The Hawaiian skies that were typically blue and friendly were raining with death today. My hand began to cramp from the force I was holding the trigger of the gun that I hardly noticed I had run out of ammo. The scene around me broke my heart. In the water lay men and ships alike, on fire and belly up. The emotions that I felt that day were unlike anything I had ever felt before. I wiped what I thought was sweat from my brow, but my sleeve turned dark red with blood. My brothers were dying around me, and I felt helpless in dragging several to shelter from the firestorm the Japanese were supplying. After a few trips of carrying dying men, I began to feel lightheaded, so I lay there in the hangar floor with my 5 wounded brothers as I prayed for the awful noises to stop. The cool of the concrete felt good against my sweaty as I closed my eyes. I wished to be home. I wished I had not woken up that morning. The events of this day were something I would never wish on even my worst enemy. I was filled with countless number of emotions, but I distinctly felt a rage for the lives of my brothers that were needlessly taken too soon.